afternoon, Judge.
Yes, good afternoon, Mr. Draper. You have been charged in case 25 CR 002789G with stalking, driving under the influence of alcohol under the age of 21, and furnishing, purchase, and possession of alcohol by a person below the legal age. Is there a history, Ms. Hardy?
Yes, the last arrest was November 12th, 2022 out of Fulton County for disorderly conduct. That case was DWOPed. They have a total of 2 arrest cycles in Georgia. Nothing further to report.
Thank you. Ms. Allen?
Thank you, Your Honor. This is an incident from the 17th of May. The location is the victim in this case is Karina. Police were sent to the location on the report of a crash. Witnesses reported that they heard a crash, and officers located a car matching the description that they'd been given. And the defendant was the driver, who immediately asked, "Why am I being detained?" There were 2 flat tires on the passenger side, a dent in the rim, and it was clear that the car had hit the curb there at a high rate of speed. Officers spoke with Mrs. Gayana Abdian, as well as a couple other people. They said they heard the vehicle driving at a high rate of speed and then recognized the defendant as the person driving it. This person, the defendant in front of you, is known to this family and had been previously contacting them without any consent. They were reportedly in fear. They told police that the defendant is constantly trying to speak to the victim, Karina, that they ended up buying cameras as a result of repeated contact by this gentleman for the outside of their residence because they were in fear he was going to continue to return to that location. The victim in this case reported that she had been contacted by the defendant at her place of employment, which is at a CVS. He'd arrived in a van and circled the parking lot until she came outside. She'd asked a male coworker to walk her to her car because he had then parked his vehicle next to hers, making it so that when she came out, she would have to encounter him. While she was being walked to her car, the defendant did try to talk to her, even though she was being escorted by someone else, and she was able to get into her vehicle and drive away. She reported that the defendant's been criminally trespassed from her residence since February of 2024, that this is not obviously the first time he has been criminally trespassed or showed up at her place of business. He comes into the store, doesn't purchase anything, calls her, changing his number so he has no caller ID coming up. The victim's mother reported that the victim has suffered some serious issues as a result of this constant unwanted contact. She is experiencing emotional distress, has a hard time sleeping at night. That she dated this young man for about a year, but had been broken up since 2022, and he's just refused to stop contacting her. He is surveilling her and continues to contact her for the purpose of harassing her. The defendant in front of you, waving his paper, was served a TPO that the victim obtained this morning. He was served that TPO today in the jail. It's a 30-day ex parte order based on this incident and the ongoing long period of time issues with him. We did speak with her in depth today. She reports that there is suspected drug use as well as aggression, that police were called by neighbors when he attacked her father in a previous incident, that he damaged her car previously. Your Honor, the details in this case are not only concerning for the victim's specific safety, but the safety of her family and generally the public, seeing as he's creeping around in his car and crashes it near her house as he's stalking her. We're asking for an $8,000 surety. This also includes a driving under the influence based on the defendant when he was taken into custody for this offense. Stay away from the location, have no contact with the victim. We would ask for a social worker visit to see if a BHET is appropriate. We'd like the stay away to include wherever Mrs. Karina lives or works. And anything else the court sees fit at this point. This is a substantial concern, not just for the victim and her family, but also for the defendant. Thank you. If you'd call for Mrs. Karina, believe she was going to join us.
So the guy is on the line and wishes to address the court. Now is your opportunity to do so. I need for you to activate your camera, unmute yourself, and I'll have to swear you in if you choose to address the court. Okay, and while we do this, Mr. Merrill, I'm going to advise your client, Mr. Draper, you have a right to remain silent. Anything you say can be used against you. This is only a bond hearing. So I see that you have your hand up right there. You can put your hand down. We notice that you want to get the attention of either the court or your attorney there. So I'll give him the opportunity to speak with you if there's something that specifically that you want him to tell me that he doesn't tell me about in his presentation. Okay, thank you, sir. Yes, Mr. Merrill.
Yes, Your Honor. So as we begin with, Your Honor, a little bit about my client, and then I'll tell you what issues I have with the warrant in itself. Your Honor, my client, Mr. Chase Draper, he's 20 years old. He's a lifelong resident, so he doesn't pose a significant risk of fleeing from our jurisdiction. In fact, he actually has familiar support. His mom is present on the Zoom, listed under the name Melanie Draper. Your Honor, she's listed under first and last name. Furthermore, he did indicate that if he was released, he would live with the mother, Your Honor. He doesn't have any children, but he does have his GED. Prior to him being in custody, Your Honor, he was working, Your Honor. And so we would ask, on the basis of the stalking, Your Honor, in the four corners of the warrant, they said that he was stalking Karina. And Karina, to be clear, is not Miss Guyana. In fact, nothing in his history indicates that he has a criminal trespass. They said a disorderly conduct that was DWAPed. We have no instance that there's no bond order that he violated, no other acts or any previous thing that even shows that he is committing these acts against Miss Karina. Also, there's nothing in this warrant that even indicates that as for the purpose of harassing, as indicated under OCGA 16-5-90, that it includes some level of emotional distress from Karina. Now, the warrant does mention that on a different day, there may be an instance that has Guyana, another individual, but what my client is actually facing charges for is an incident that happened on the 16th against Karina. And so I take that into consideration because stalking against Karina, it ain't for my case to be able to prove, but I want you to see the weakness of this particular charge against my client, Your Honor. Furthermore, as it comes to the DUI, they said DUI less safe. There was there's no field sobriety test that was completed, Your Honor. They only say that he had a slurred speech, but if he had an accident, a slurred speech could have been from a head injury, could have been from hitting the steering wheel. It could be many different things that could have occurred. I understand we're not here to litigate the DUI particular stance, but in that particular warrant, just reading over how did they get to the driving while under the influence, Your Honor, the state may have some issues when it comes to the DUI in itself, being able to prove a less safe. An accident alone is just not enough to have for driving under the influence. And while they do have a warrant that says that he was in possession of an alcohol, Your Honor. What's interesting is that the police, as they normally notate, would indicate if he had, alcohol breath on his or the smell of alcohol. So, Your Honor, while it says that he has observed to have the twisted iced tea drinks in the vehicle, Your Honor, it doesn't necessarily mean that drinking and driving. But we're not here to, take this case to trial at this time. I just point out the weakness in this because, Your Honor, I am asking if on the open alcohol container, if he can, I would be asking for a signature bond in this particular case. My client is only 20 years old, Your Honor, and so I would ask that since he doesn't really have much interactions with the law altogether, we didn't have many cycles that you allow for him to have a signature bond. Nothing further.
He in school? Is he working? What are his circumstances?
So he has his GED, Your Honor, and he was working at He was doing emissions testing as well as he was doing mechanical work at Jiffy Lube, and he was working to try to save money to. I see you, Mr. Draper. Just one second. He was working to try to get himself into college and be able to afford college, etc.
Okay, so he still has a job waiting for him.
Correct.
Okay. And who is Karina to Guyana?
Your
Sister.
Honor, thank you, Mr. Merrill. Just one second. So this case involves not just the young woman that the defendant in front of you previously dated, Guyana, but her family members who have been witnessing the defendant drive past their home, have reported with the help of the police and the court system, constant contact by this young man. The incident where he went to her work, the most recent one, and parked next to her vehicle was May the 12th at the CVS around 10:20 p.m. So on the day of the 16th, when this young man drunkenly crashed his car out in front of the residence where Guyana lives with her family, she wasn't present at the time. It was her sisters who were there. And that's what seems to be the confusion for Mr. Merrill. This defendant has been arrested at least 2 prior times for criminal trespass and battery against other individuals, and those were not successfully prosecuted. The issue here is that the constant criminal trespassing, constant harassment, constant stalking, and what is clearly a substance abuse issue and now danger to himself as well as others on the street is being dealt with by multiple family members at this location, Your Honor. It just happened to be that on the 16th, he crashed his car there nearby and was found on scene, and police were able to verify that he was there. As you're perfectly aware, it's very difficult with stalking cases because until something actually happens, police have a hard time moving forward. So the reason why this case is able to move forward today is because this young man crashed his car right there on the date. But as you're also well aware, and I stated earlier, this young woman obtained a TPO this morning, and those requirements for a TPO and the requirements for stalking and then later aggravated stalking require that there be more than one incident of conduct. And so that's what we're talking about here. The stalking alleged on 5/16 is the culmination of multiple contacts over a period of time, starting at least in 2022. And so you're experiencing today the names of multiple people because there are now multiple people involved who've been victimized by this gentleman, including the father of Guyana, who also lives there.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that for me. And I'm going to come back to you, Mr. Merrill. I'm going to see if Miss Melanie Draper wants to address the court. If she does, I'm going to give her that opportunity. Ms. Draper, you certainly don't have to address the court, but if you want to speak on behalf of your son, I'm happy to hear from you. Is there anything that you want to say to the court this afternoon? If so, I need for you to raise your right hand for me. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give before this court be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, you can place your hand down. What would you like to tell the court, ma'am?
I would just like, I guess, to say a little bit of the history between Chase and his girlfriend. They've been together since they were, 15 years old. And so they're 20 now. And it's just, that's the history of it. I don't know of any stalking.
Your Honor, I'm going to object at
my
this
phone
point.
number.
I'd love to hear Ms. Draper talk about her son, but any conversation about the victim who's not present right now isn't appropriate.
Okay, but
Giving
hold
us-
on. I'm just trying to get an understanding of what's going on. So you all give me that opportunity to get an understanding. So you're telling me Guyana was his girlfriend?
Oh, yes, since they were freshmen in high school.
Okay, all right. So now so he's not going to be able to have any more contact with Guyana, just so we're clear on that. And he's still living in your household, Miss Draper?
Yes, he's living here for about the last month, yeah.
Okay, and what does he do on a day-to-day basis? Does he have a job? Is he?
Yes, sir. Yes, he works at the admissions place and like locally, and he works every day, pretty much every single day, full time.
Okay. And And if I do release him, I'm gonna release him because he's not quite 21 yet, is he? He's still 20, right?
Correct.
So if he is released, I'm gonna need for you to be the parental co-signer. Are you willing to do that?
I am.
Okay.
Yes.
Anything else that you need to tell me specifically about Chase?
We're in the process working with admissions to get him into Georgia State, and it's a huge goal to get him in very, very soon. And
Okay.
I'd like to just come and get him out on a signature bond if I
Okay.
can.
All right. Thank you for being here this afternoon, Ms. Draper. We appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Mr. Merrill, anything further that you need to tell me?
No, no.
All right. So Chase, let me make this perfectly clear to you, okay? You cannot have any further contact with Guyana, her family, her household, anyone. No contact. And let me be specific so that I know that I've told you and so that you know that I've told you what no contact means. No contact obviously means no personal contact. It means no telephone contact, no social media contact, no texting, no contact with third parties to get her a message. No contact means no contact whatsoever. If I find out that you have had contact with Guyana, her sisters, her family, even if you've driven past her house, I'm going to revoke this bond and as soon as it comes before me. Okay, so I want you to understand that. No contact whatsoever. For the stalking, it will be a $5,000 signature bond through pretrial level 2. For the DUI, a $2,000 signature bond through pretrial level 2. For the alcohol furnishing $1,000 signature bond through pretrial level 2 makes for a total of an $8,000 signature bond through pretrial level 2. No further contact with Miss Guyana or her family members. Stay away from her residential address, stay away from her work address, stay away from the work address of those members of her household. A parental co-signer of your mother, Miss Melanie Draper. You are to continue working and you are to continue your efforts to get into college. No drugs, no alcohol, no weapons while you are out on bond. And to make sure of that, I am going to order that you undergo random drug and alcohol screens while you're on bond. Okay. Good luck to you, Chase. Mrs. Draper, good luck to you as well.
Next, we'll go with position number 7, Mr. Hutching.